This is information.
In our last video, we covered a wide variety of introductory HTML and CSS, and then you were able to put together a basic HTML page with some lists, some graphics, and a little bit of style. Now we're going to get into some basic page structuring with divs, and then some fancy cool HTML5 semantic structuring. The div element allows you to group a set of elements together in a block level box. A brief word about inline and block. Remember that HTML is rendered from top to bottom and left to right. In a browser, block level elements start on new lines, unless you specifically do something to them, like floating, which we'll get to later on. Remember also that elements like paragraphs and headings are block level elements. Inline elements don't start on a new line, like links and images. Something else to keep in mind about divs. HTML is all about applying meaning to content. What does this even mean? Let's take an example we've already talked about. Paragraphs and headings. These elements tell the browser that the text inside the P and the H whatever number tags a certain type of text, and they should be displayed in a certain way. But divs by themselves don't apply meaning to content, so what gives with divs? Divs are an easy way to group a bunch of elements together. We'll talk more about classes and IDs, but for now, just remember that they act as hooks that we can attach CSS to later on for styling or other important things. So that was a long story about divs. Bottom line, use them to bunch up HTML elements so you can be and feel organized. Later on, we'll use CSS to style them up. In HTML5, we have a bunch of options for structuring our content in specific ways. You'll hear me and other places talk about HTML5 as being very semantic. What does this mean? Semantic HTML is the use of HTML to apply meaning to content, rather than just defining how it looks. We do this with semantic HTML tags, like we already have with paragraphs and headings. A semantic tag is what it says it is. Let's look at some more semantic tags. The article element is used for a standalone piece of content. You could use this once, like it was for a blog post, or we could use this over and over, like in a page in a newspaper that has a bunch of articles in it. You can even nest articles inside each other. The section element is more general. You can use these to split up content inside an article, like on a page with a long article, or you can go the other way with the newspaper analogy from before. The section tag can be used like sections of a newspaper, with individual articles inside each section. The section element groups related content together, so keep that in mind when you're deciding whether to use article or section. Here's where it is important to actually type your code with proper indentation. Not only will it help you keep things straight, but the browser will know which element is getting nested where. Of course, you could just use regular old divs instead of articles and sections, but these semantic tags make your markup richer and more meaningful. Headers and footers are pretty self-explanatory. Here's what they can be used for. Number 1, the main header or footer at the top or bottom of every page on the site. Or number 2, a header or footer for an individual article or section within the page. You've all probably seen a footer at the bottom of a web page with stuff like copyright, or terms of use, or privacy policy, or things like that. Recently, longer footers have been popular for putting text links of all the pages in a site, contact information, social media, and so on. Asides are used for content related to the content surrounding it. Asides have two purposes, depending on where you put it. If you put an aside inside an article, it should contain related content, but not essential to its overall meaning. Something like a pull quote is good for this. The other purpose is for when you put the aside tag outside of an article element. Then it acts like a container for content related to the entire page. Here you could use aside to put links to other sections of your site, a list of recent posts, a search box, recent tweets by the author, and other such things. The figure tag is another way to organize your information. Mostly used to contain images, it can be used to contain any content that is referenced from the main flow of an article, not just images. Think of like a newspaper that has pictures with captions in them, or graphs and charts and things like that. You can use the figure tag for stuff like images, videos, graphs, diagrams, code samples, or text that supports the main body of the article. The figure tag should also include the fig caption tag. This is a text description of the content in a figure element.
This meteorology class teaches future flyers celestial navigation, the science that guides our planes to their objectives and safely home again. Navigation is the last big container tag we'll tackle in this video. The nav tag is used to make the primary site navigation for pages, and if you think about it, navigation is just a list of links. An unordered list of links. So we already know how to make lists. That's half the battle won already. The rest of the battle is the stuff inside the li tag. The link stuff is what goes on inside the li tag, and we already know how to write that too.